And tonight, a Hannity history lesson on Democrats' civil rights record and their connection to the Confederate flag. Now, liberals in the mainstream media, they want to blame the GOP for race problems in America, but they will never tell you the real history. Let's start at the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Guess what? 80% of Republicans in Congress voted for the bill. Only 64% of Democrats did. Oh, and by the way, Al Gore's father, Al Gore Sr., Bill Clinton's mentor, a segregationist by the name of J. William Fulbright, one-time Democratic Senate Majority Leader and former Klan member Robert KKK Byrd, they all voted against the Civil Rights Act. And as for the 1965 Voting Rights Act, 87% of congressional Republicans voted for it, 79% of Democrats voted for it. So the Republican Party, they were the party that Lyndon Johnson credited with the Civil Rights Act passage. Now let's move on to South Carolina and the Confederate flag issue. In 1962, Democratic South Carolina Governor Fritz Hollings, well, he raised the Confederate flag atop the South Carolina State House. Not going to hear that history from Hillary Clinton, because here's what she said yesterday.
It shouldn't fly there. It shouldn't fly anywhere.
By the way, in 1996, a Republican governor in South Carolina tried to take the flag down. He was voted out. Now let's look at 1987. Then Governor Bill Clinton in Arkansas, he signed a bill indicating the Confederate roots of the Arkansas state flag. It said, in part, quote, "The blue star above the word Arkansas is to commemorate the Confederate States of America." Looks like Hillary has a little bit of a flag problem. Here now with reaction, the author of Climate Change, The Facts, Mark Stein. Mr. Stein, here's what bothers me. Lyndon Johnson said, without Republicans, there is no passage of the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act, 64-65. Future Democratic leader in the Senate, Robert Byrd, filibustered the bill. Right. Al Gore's father wasn't there. Right. Bill Clinton's mentor, a segregationist, J. William Fulbright. All of these men voted against it. But most people don't know this. Explain. How did this become a Republican problem?
Exactly. I mean, I know the GOP is called the stupid party, but the idea that Republicans can have the Confederate flag hung around their neck is ridiculous. It's a Democrat flag. The flags, the states that seceded during the Civil War were all Democrat states. That's their flag. The slave states were Democrat states. The racist states until the 1960s were Democrat states. The Democratic Party was the largest and most powerful institution supporting slavery in the English-speaking world, and it's the only one that has survived to the 21st century. Slaveholding is very unusual among the English-speaking peoples. Canadians didn't do it. Australians didn't do it. The Democratic Party and the states they controlled did it. It's their flag. Hillary Clinton had it on campaign bumper stickers when she ran for president in 2008. You mentioned Robert C. Byrd, Sean. Bill Clinton was doing Ku Klux Klan Grand Kleagle jokes at Byrd's funeral, saying, Robert C. Byrd, he was the Grand Kleagle, he just did what he had to do, you know, I'm too sexy for my sheet. It's their flag, it's their,
it's their problem.
To be hung around their neck. It's nothing to do with the Republican Party.
You know, I found a 1992 New York Times article. You know what the story was about? Bill Clinton playing golf at a club that he played at all of his adult life as governor that didn't allow black membership. I guarantee you most Americans don't know that about, quote, America's first black president.
No, and again, Sean, it's a party with an incredible century-and-a-half history of institutional racism. There's nothing like it anywhere on the planet. You know, people go on about apartheid South Africa. The National Party came to power in 1948, and they were gone 45 years later. That's how long they lasted, and they're nothing now. The Democratic Party has never come to terms with the evil of its past. The idea it was a party committed to the proposition that one human being could own another human being, and they've never said a word about that.
So this is a Democratic.
They've never apologized for it. They've never atoned for it in the way that they had the Reconciliation Commission in South Africa. Tony Blair a couple of years ago was going around apologizing for everything. He apologized for the Irish potato famine. The Canadian government apologized for how it treated Indian school children. When is the Democratic Party going to apologize for being the biggest slave-holding supporting institution on the planet and sticking with racism for the century after the abolition of slavery?
Here's my question. So this is a Democratic problem, and it looks like Nikki Haley, the Republican governor, is going to clean up their mess. It's now become blown up into a huge issue. But I believe in substance over symbolism. I don't believe this is going to stop the next kid like Ruth that wants to go shoot 9 innocent churchgoers after sitting in a Bible study with them for 9 hours, nor do I believe any more gun laws are going to solve the problem. Don't we have to now start examining that all of these people that are prone to or involved in these incidents, they tend to telegraph what their thoughts are prior. And now we discovered that this guy, Dylan Roof, had all these rantings and ravings of a racist lunatic, and nobody picked up on it. Isn't that more substantive? Won't that do more if we examine these websites prior to these incidents to save lives than changing a flag?
Well, I think what you're saying there, Sean, is that actually human judgment is what makes the difference here. That's true in everything. It was, if you remember the Millennium Bomber at the British Columbia-Washington state border, it was an alert border guard not liking the look in the eye. It's true of national security, and it's true for these kind of crimes. And they both tend to feature less lone wolves than known wolves. In other words, they're signaling their moves beforehand in quite some detail. We had, I think it was Columbine, where the kids were walking around doing Hitler salutes and everything beforehand, and nobody wants to make, and same with Virginia Tech, and nobody wants to make a judgment about people these days and about their behavior. And that's really the only way you can stop individuals like this. And it testifies, I think it's actually insulting to the dead in Charleston that it's dwindled down into a stupid argument about the Confederate flag. I mean,
let me ask you this.
This guy, Roof, the flags he wore in his outfit, he had the flag of old apartheid South Africa, and he had the flag of Rhodesia. Even you know, the Confederate flag didn't do it for him in terms of advertising his racial supremacy
symbols
theories.
than that.
So the idea that it's come down to an argument about this is completely absurd, even by the standards of your Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton grievance mongering. It's absurd.
You have Sears, Walmart, Amazon, eBay, and all these other retailers who have decided to stop selling anything Confederate. Now, I'm going to play the president using the N-word and then ask the question, if they're going to do that with Confederate flags and other items, should they maybe do it with some of the most vile rap music, not all of it, but that uses the N-word, the B-word, the H-word, and should the president be using this word?
Racism. We are not cured of. Clearly. And it's not just a matter of it not being polite to say in public. That's not the measure of whether racism still exists or not. It's not just a matter of overt discrimination. Societies don't overnight completely erase everything that happened 200 to 300 years prior.
Should the president use that? And if stores ban the Confederate flag, should they ban music that uses the N-word?
Well, I don't think you can have it both ways. We seem to live in a world where, on this network, when the president uses that word, it's bleeped out. But at the same time, if some rap act wants to put it throughout its CD, that CD will be in the racks at Walmart with everything else. And I don't think you can have it both ways. I'm big on free speech issues, and I don't think you can have a situation where words are bad words, but certain people are allowed to use those bad words.
But if you're going to make a decision one way, don't you have to make it the other way to be consistent?
I think that's true, but I don't think the president should have used that word. I mean, I think that's actually simply unbecoming for the president of the United States to talk like that, and it's not what the issue is about these days. And as I said, those kind of issues are actually his party's issues. And I go back to that point, Sean, because the Democratic Party is uniquely, virulently racist and pro-slavery to a degree unseen anywhere in the English-speaking world. And that's an issue. They should have that argument about themselves and leave the rest of us the hell out of it, because it's nothing to do with us. And I don't want their internal history hung around my neck.
Well said. And the history is also the first Republican president was Lincoln. And, of course, he was the one that kept the Union together and ended slavery. Mark Stein.